everybody. I am to. Hello. Hello, everyone. All right, am I clear? Yeah, as it is clear, the title of my webinar, A General Framework for Teacher Education in the 21st Century. Before I start my presentation at the beginning, I would like to appreciate all those who have made their global or local contribution to ELT, language assessment, and applied linguistics. What to obtain from this webinar? We would like to review some of these key issues in the 21st related teacher education, from transmission to beyond transmission model, continuing professional development, so-called CPD, continuing professional development and in-service and pre-service courses, some tips and frameworks. And finally, we will conclude our webinar. At the beginning, I'd like to start with some introductory statements. Some researchers have reviewed more than 1,300 articles, and the research they did recommends that teacher education research need to be conducted more extensively. This indicates the reality that TTC is required for all those who would like to start teaching, and people who have already taken TTC courses, they have acted and now they act better than those who have not taken TTC courses. So this in mind, we would like to start with teacher education in the 21st century. In the 1990s, two paradigm shifts took place. The first was beyond method in ELT, and the second was beyond method in teacher education. Here, beyond method in ELT is not within the scope of my discussion, but I'd like to just elaborate on beyond method in I'd like to elaborate on beyond method in teacher education. As the diagram indicates, before the paradigm shift, one-size-fits-all model was common, and pre-packaged TTC courses were recommended to all. So this was named transmission model. But when paradigm shift happened, post-method teacher education came to view, and reflective practice and reflective teaching. So came to the discussion of the researchers, practitioners, and teachers. Sociocultural theory here, Vygotsky's sociocultural theory was hotly discussed. So it indicated the reality of dialogic issues in the context, interaction and mediation-oriented pedagogy. In transmission model, teacher candidates were considered passive, and they were considered as vessel that, to be just filled with knowledge. However, when we move to beyond transmission model or post-method pedagogy, we observed various roles being allocated to teacher candidates or teachers. At the same time, also, the role of the teacher, educators changed. In beyond method transmission model, teacher candidates were active rather than passive. So they could themselves create theory of their own based on practice. More significantly, as it is clear from my diagram, uh, there are three pedagogies for 21st century teacher education. Pedagogy of particularity, practicality, and possibility. The pedagogy of particularity indicates the fact that we should solve local problems with local solutions. There is just one example for that. Communicative language teaching in some contexts does not respond. And in some contexts, some teachers and teacher educators complain about communicative language teaching. This indicates the fact that we need to move along the line of localization rather than globalization. However, we can be informed and reinforced by global issues. Why? Because socioculture and the sociopolitical issues or educational issues, as well as the various needs and preferences for the teacher educators and teacher candidates included in particular contexts are quite different. The second one is the practicality pedagogy. Here, experts and teachers are not exposed to each other. Teachers can create their own theories. They can theorize based on their practice. And here, according to practicality, the professionals or experts, researchers, just are not the sole source for the teachers to use their theories. So here, teachers, teacher educators, teacher candidates are not the consumers. They can themselves create their own theories. Here, research and practice as well as theory are placed on a continuum, which is based on CPD that I'd like to explain more. The third pedagogy is the pedagogy of possibility. Here, the locally socio-political issues are respected by the individuals, and also the individual identity of the teachers, teacher educators, and novice teachers are respected. Their identity in connection with socio-political issues are balanced and respected. Why? Because individual identities are formed in the society. So whatever socio-political issues happening in the society affects their identity. So there should be a balance between these two factors. To continue the point, from Vygotsky's sociocultural point of view, we see that, hello, is there any problem? From Vygotsky's sociocultural point of view, we see that global attitudes compared to local attitudes can be mitigated. Whenever we would like to solve a problem, all problem-related pedagogy is local. And if the locality of the pedagogy is ignored, all stakeholders, as Coleman indicates, all stakeholders will be threatened. Whenever we are talking about post-method pedagogy, we are talking about beyond transmission model, we are talking about a move away from being to becoming. We use mediating tools in order to move the novice teachers to their actual potentiality. So this zone of proximal development is looked at from humanistic and democratic point of view. That is what 21st century teacher education is more focused on. Uh, in 21st century and in 20th century, we see various attitudes towards continuous professional development, so-called CPD. At the beginning, I'd like to provide you with a definition of continuous professional development. Continuous professional development is an association with developing individuals' skills and knowledge, expertise, and other teaching depending features. So what is here more significant is the fact that we would like to improve our quality of teaching, develop reflective teaching, reflective practice, and also develop standards of practice. On the other hand, also, we are, as teacher educators and teachers, in the opinion that we should develop also our status and our standing in the field. In order to do that, we are in urgent need of continuing professional development. CPD here calls for more attention. Historically, if we look at the notion of continuous professional development, we see four stages here. The first stage is pre-professionalist stage. It is related to transmission model, which happened before 1960. What does it indicate? It indicates the fact that we consider teaching something simple. Teaching in stage one is technically simple. When we move to 20th century, the second stage, it is professionalism. Professionalism is golden age of 20th century. However, the main problem here was the teachers were considered autonomous and they were not in the belief of collaboration with each other, cooperation with each other. They did not believe in community of practice. They did not believe in cooperation. They did not believe in negotiation and exchanging their ideas with each other. Whenever we move to the mid-1980s, we see culture of collaboration, which is named collegial professionalism. According to collegial professionalism, collaboration came to view, and we moved from professionalism to professionalism-oriented autonomy to professionalism-oriented collaboration. The problem of the second stage was there was no collaboration, but stage 3 solved this problem. But stage 4 is where we are, toward 21st century post-method. In stage 4, we have post-method professionalism. Of course, if you look at stage 1, we also see some of the features and characteristics of some of the features and characteristics of stage 1 are observed in stage 4. This is something needing reflection. Why sometimes in some contexts teaching is looked at something technically simple. If teaching is viewed as something technically simple, reflective practice is questioned. Dialogic interaction gets under question. So, however, we claim that we are in post-method professionalism, but there are some challenges. some problems in this connection. Some of these problems I will elaborate on in the next parts. All right. So pre-service and sorry, just a minute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just a minute. Okay. Continuous professional development and pre-service and in-service courses. There are two diagrams here. They themselves talk. The first diagram indicates the fact that novice teachers or teachers or even the educators arrive at a context, they take the course, and then they leave it. Here, the novice teachers, teacher candidates, take a certificate, they take a teacher training course, but in the middle they stop. They do not connect it to the in-service teacher training. All right. Continuous professional development here gets under threatened. But in the second, there is no threat. The teacher candidates, the novice teachers take a certificate. They follow CPD along the continuum, and they connect their certificate, their experience to the in-service teacher training. And they here understand the fact that education is a lifeline. Learning, teaching is a lifeline. Teaching practice or practice teaching is lifeline. Attending conference is a lifeline. Attending seminars or webinars is lifeline. Theory and practice in post-method teacher education. It is simple. If you look at the diagram, you observe that theory and practice are placed on a continuum. We can never demarcate them. We can never separate them from each other. So they are placed on a continuum. We can never say that theory is on one side and practice is on one side, on another side. They are interwoven to each other. They are inextricably linked. So this should be considered in both in-service courses and pre-service courses as theory and practice reinforce each other. Why we say that theory and practice are connected? If you look at the diagram, this figure, the teachers usually create their personal theories based on practice, as I already mentioned. The teachers do not wait for the top-down agents, I mean the experts, to send them theories. Here, cooperation and collaboration can come as mediating tools between them. That is why it is believed that teachers, novice teachers, teacher educators should have both conceptual and perceptual knowledge. Knowledge base in teacher education. If you look at the elements of knowledge base in teacher education in the 21st century, there are a lot of elements. Some of the key elements which can affect the knowledge base of the teachers I've included here. Language assessment is one of the key elements that should be integrated into teacher education courses. Practical skills, how to teach language skills and language study skills as practice teaching tools can be borne in mind. English as a lingua franca pedagogy can be also integrated into teacher education courses. General English affecting the novice teachers, teacher candidates can play its own significant role. Technology-based literacy is also one of the key competences of knowledge base. ELT-related issues, curriculum development, syllabus design, second language acquisition, foreign language acquisition. So can all of the teacher educators teach all of them in the class? Can all of the novice teachers learn all of them in the class? Of course not. During short periods, we can never cover all of them in the class. We just need some introductory familiarities with them. When we come to knowledge base, as I mentioned here, these competences, there are some challenges with these competences. Of course, some of them I'd like to mention, and some potential solutions also are provided. Number one, the first challenge is in TTC class, we have limited amount of time. What should we do? We can, number one, initiate the novice teachers into some of the introductory issues related to the mentioned competences. And the novice teachers need to connect their pre-service to in-service. They need to themselves perform self-study. They need to themselves follow CPD. The second challenge is English as a lingua franca pedagogy. As the researchers indicate, non-native speakers and native speakers do not need idealistic attitudes here. Native speakers and non-native speakers have their own right. Non-native speakers should keep and preserve their culture, their behavior, and identity, according to researchers. On the other hand, we are not supposed to very severely follow standard English, according to English as lingua franca pedagogy. Why? If we are not seriously supposed to follow standard English, what should be done? English language is for communication. It is not for perfection. More significantly, for example, we have IELTS. Do all of the non-native speakers need 9 on IELTS? Of course not. If they get 7, 7.5, they can meet their communicative needs, even lower. So whenever we are teaching, however, for example, we are moving along the line of developing our micro skills and macro skills on a standard basis, but more significantly, we are in need of understanding the ins and outs of counseling in teacher education. We can guide our learners, our novice teachers, in a way that they will understand language is for communication. Language is not for perfection. Assessment. Assessment should be integrated into teacher education. We as language teachers are not in keeping with assessment more often, but introductory knowledge of assessment, formative assessment, and integrated assessment, and fundamental issues in language assessment are required for educators in our field. Number 4, technological competence, again, is another key point that particularly during COVID-19, all of us were committed to that, and we should follow the trend of digital literacy. The 5th point is that the challenge, most of the teacher educators themselves have minimal preparation for professional development. They themselves do not have the sufficient and required preparation for teaching. So this threatens our field. And also here, to guide the novice teachers gets under threat. Number 6 is collaboration. The recommendation is that the educators, teacher trainers, should themselves cooperate with each other, and they should make cooperation and collaboration common in our field, and invite each other for exchange of ideas. These are the challenges which usually stop the educators and get in their way of arriving at community of practice, which is not, unfortunately, more seriously taken into consideration. So community of practice here merits very serious consideration. So how can we avoid our profession falling into deprofessionalization area? How can we avoid, generally speaking, deprofessionalization? We cannot let our profession follow its own fate. We need to avoid deprofessionalization. However, it cannot in its absolute sense of the word happen. There are some recommendations. Number 1, Commitment to knowledge base. We are in need of following the competences to the possible extent. Number two, do not eliminate rather than regulate and scaffold educators who are unlicensed, uncertified, and unqualified. If the educators are unlicensed, we should not eliminate them. If they are unqualified, we should not eliminate them. The message of 21st century teacher education is that we should mediate, we should uh, develop their zone of proximal area, and we should scaffold them and regulate. We should help them and guide them, make them more qualified rather than eliminate them or cancel them. Another issue that relates to avoiding deprofessionalization is one key fact: scientific English in front of general English. Native speakers are fluent speakers, and non-native speakers have IELTS, for example, 7, 8. It cannot be a main criterion for educators to welcome. Again, we cannot eliminate the native speakers who are fluent and they teach. Or we cannot eliminate the non-native speakers who have IELTS and they teach. So what should we do? We can qualify them. We can certify them. So if they have social intelligence, interested in teaching profession, and more enthusiastic about our profession, surely they can be mediated, and we can lead them from IELTS to pre-service, and from pre-service to in-service, and then they can continue their CPD. What about the native speakers who are followed? Again, they can be certified, they can take qualified courses, and then they can start teaching. This is a key fact that can avoid deprofessionalization. Setting a standard, a set of standards of practice, again, it is one of the key elements that can stop deprofessionalization and can move us to reprofessionalization. In order to avoid deprofessionalization, we recommend those who are enthusiastic about teaching profession to attend TTC courses, local or global courses. We recommend them do action research. They can study methodology books, they can read journals, magazines, they can share ideas with their colleagues. Of course, this is not just for the teacher candidates. Sharing ideas with colleagues can be recommended to both novice teachers, experienced teachers, and to all those involved in this field. So observation, reflective teaching, video observation, peer assessment, joining community of practice is recommended. In fact, joining community of practice sets aside the boundaries of theory and practice, connects those working at universities to those working at institutes and more pedagogical contexts. To avoid deprofessionalization, we need to participate in conferences, workshops, webinars, and we should welcome them. Of course, in the last part, I have written marketization of education in favor of academy. When we say that we should participate in conferences, workshops, and webinars, so in fact, we are moving towards academy. When we say marketization of education in favor of academy, doesn't mean that we ignore budgetary issues. We need to have salaries too, but we need to strike a balance among the variables included here, some other variables which are context sensitive to urban context, and also some other variables which are in your own experience. They should be balanced, and in this case, we can move from deprofessionalization to professionalization. I'd like to just supply you with some common concepts. Of course, over the course of my presentation, I talked about, in fact, I connected my teacher education to training, and I use them interchangeably in my presentation, as Penny indicates. So it is, they are different anyway. Training is limited. It refers to particular specific technique, skills, and piece of knowledge. However, education is more vast. Education refers to developing theories, awareness of language, decision making, cognitive ability, reflection using experience, identity formation, etc.
You're still muted.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry for interruption. Hello, am I clear? Right. Um, the next concept can be teaching or pedagogy. Teaching is a practical act, but pedagogy includes not only a practical act, but also the purposes, values, ideas, assumptions, theories, and beliefs that justify teaching. Some teachers, teacher educators, novice teachers, teacher candidates might ask a question. They might ask, uh, are theories, are theoretical issues needed for teaching? Of course. Theoretical issues justify our teaching. They help us to uh, theorize and personalize our practice. That is why teaching and pedagogy should be borne in mind. The pedagogical implications of my presentation. We should consider both teaching and pedagogy. We should move along the line of continuous professional development. Uh, should reconsider and reanalyze our reflect they do. So a vast majority of the teachers do not do research. They cannot do research. There is no problem. They can do action research with cooperation of their colleagues. They can invite their colleagues to their classes. There can be reflection, reflective exchange of attitudes. This itself by nature can be associated with research because they are finding their local solutions to their local problems. Peer observation and consider pre-observation, while observation, post-observation, before we send the teachers to the novice teachers to the class to observe the other teachers' classes. There are some activities before they observe and after, while they observe, after they observe. These should be borne in mind. Number 5, ongoing assessment and integrated assessment. These are also key points that should be integrated into teacher education. Number 6 is zone of proximal development and scaffolding should be performed in pre-service courses, but also in in-service courses. Number 7, assessment of practice teaching, teach and practice, and assessment of language, both can be borne in mind. Number 8, ELF pedagogy, again, is more emphasized. Caring ethics can be emphasized too. I'd like to just introduce some tips. Think, pair, and share approach. It is a simple approach, but imagine just as a novice teacher or as an educator, we are dealing with this. So I am teaching a reading. What should I do? It is simple. To engage them, we can ask them to read and think. To make them communicate and collaborate with each other, we can have them to pair. And in order to make sure of their thinking in pairing with each other, we can ask them share. This has both training implication and educational implication if considered more reflectively. And the second tip is integration of all language skills and sub skills into the class. Of course, again, it depends on the purpose. English for specific purposes is something quite separate from the point I am mentioning. When I say we should integrate all of the language skills into the classroom or sub skills, again, it depends on the purpose. But in general, whenever we are teaching conversation courses, this is the case that can be performed. So pre-teaching, while teaching, post-teaching, these three stages can be applied to all macro skills and micro skills, both macro skills and micro skills. It's all of the language skills and sub skills can be performed with use of think, pair, and share approach. This is a commonly used framework for TTC classes or teacher education courses. First, the teacher educators start teaching how to teach macro, micro skills with little or no theory. Then teaching practice, micro teaching, observation is done, real or video, demo or assessment of demo can be conducted. They fail or they pass and they get a certificate. Finally, they come to a workplace. The problem is often they do not continue CPD in the workplace. I would like to recommend a framework. Of course, it is context sensitive. Maybe it is not generalizable. There is no claim for generalization of these framework. They can start with theoretical input. At the same time, CPD awareness is made. Input, theoretical input from beginning by the end continues. At the same time, we teach them theoretical input and they reflectively follow theoretical issues. They go to the observation courses. They do micro teaching, practice teaching, reflective teaching. And at the same time, they are analyzing, theorizing practice from their peers. And then through observation, they are getting nurtured. And along this line, we run formative assessment. Finally, it leads to integrated assessment joined with certificate. So, but here I didn't write, for certificate, I didn't write fail or pass. Why? If we scaffold and if we humanize the process of our teaching the novice teachers, we will see no fail. If we believe that zone of proximal development is humanistic and should be considered humanistic, we believe that they can develop, they can be placed on the continuum of theory and practice and continue their CPD. They come to workplace and they can continue their CPD. This is just an idealized point of view in connection with framework for TTC class. There is no generalization. Conclusion. The bottom line is that over the course of 50 years, research findings have been supportive of teacher training. However, we are far away from the promised land for teacher education with respect to both theory and practice. This all given, there can be a promising future for teacher education. Thank you all. That I perceive, I am ready to answer.
Okay, so would you explain the role of critical thinking in language pedagogy and teacher education?
That's okay. As it was mentioned, one of the key elements of critical thinking is engagement. Whenever we are looking at critical thinking, the teacher educators and should consider the way novice teachers can think critically. Whenever they think critically, they look at the phenomena of practice or practicum from various aspects, and they reconsider and reanalyze not only whatever they are practicing, but also they can easily, with use of theoretical issues, connect it to their own previous background and their skin matter. And in this case, the sense of critical thinking can be performed. Thank you very much for your nice question.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, teacher. It was great.
So any further questions? Thank you.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Of course.
Sorry, but I have a question which is not specifically related to this point, but it's
Okay.
about teaching.
If I can, it's okay, I will answer.
For sure you can. About teaching online, what should we do with inactive students? And do you know any sites, any application materials which we can use during teaching online, especially for
You
teenagers?
mean whenever you are teaching online, yeah?
Yep.
I believe Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, dialogic tools for connecting the learners. If one learner does not do his or her homework and is very passive, we can be connected to them. We can be connected with them out of the class. We can call them. We can talk with them. We can consider effective filter hypothesis. Maybe there are some filters. If we talk with them and they will hear you, they will listen to you, you will listen to them, and their self-confidence, their self-esteem will be developed, will be boosted. And if you continuously do this, I guess there will be some change in their behavior. And every session, when you, again, I consider Professor Hossein Farhadi's point of view about language testing. He believes that we should diagnose the weaknesses of learners. The passive learners' weakness should be diagnosed. And then after diagnosing, we should mediate, scaffold, give them assistance in order for them to more successfully communicate in the class. And whenever they feel secure, they will be more comfortable in the class. And here, the role of counseling comes to view, how to psychologically view these complex phenomena. Because of that, the belief is that in post-method professionalism, we are dealing with teaching profession, which is complex due to, in fact, various factors, as is included in chaos theory. I hope to satisfy you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your awesome answer and I will apply it. Thank you very much.
Hello, I have a question as well.
All right.
What is your take on the role of these certificates and courses, of course CPD, on the road to become a teacher educator?
What do you mean? Could you please clarify the point? You mean?
I would like to know your take on the appropriate way to plan to become a teacher educator. What is the course that you suggest?
I suggest, so you can take local courses, local certificate, global certificate. You can take CELTA, you can take, of course, before CELTA, you need to take some local teacher training courses, TESOL course, or TESOL certificate. And then from my point of view, you can start teaching. But as I mentioned, in order for, I don't know anything about your education, but
I have a gotten to the point where you just finished? I already have done the locals and a little bit of globals. I've done my CELTA. I have quite a long time of
That's
experience.
okay. So you are,
Yeah.
anyway, you have the required certificates. So again, part of the certificates are related to experience of teaching. You need to be along the line of CPD, be connected to the colleagues, be in the community of practice, and you start your career. Surely, uh, since you are certified, uh, anyway, you will be surely qualified too. You are qualified that you are certified, sure. And I see no ambiguity here.
I see. Thank you very much. But as I said, I already have years of experience teaching, and as
And
you're
at the same time, you have CELTA,
sorry.
and if I'm not mistaken, you told that you have CELTA.
Yes, I have done CELTA as well.
That's
And
okay. So you
yeah,
can apply for various positions in teaching at various English language institutes, and you can start easily teaching. But after CELTA and Delta, if you would like to move to another area, you can join train the trainer course of Cambridge. It can be okay too, or you can do self-study. You can. I recommend you,
yes, please.
because we have covered a lot of theoretical issues in this connection in CELTA classes, and I'm sure that you have studied, you have self-studied more. You need to move just along the line of CPD and just theorize your practice, be motivated to read papers, magazines in English language, related issues, teaching profession related issues, and join conferences, webinars, etc.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
What's your idea about project-based learning, and what kind of task would be the best choice when it comes to learning English in this period of time?
We need to move along the line of needs-based approach. We should analyze and reconsider their needs and the kind of purposes they have, the kind of aims they have, together with their preferences, interests, and their requirements for their future. You can supply them with the needed task.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I also have another question.
Of course, I welcome.
What do you think is the main reason that teachers are not very they're not really interested in collaborative behavior such as peer observation amongst the colleagues? What do you think is the main reason?
It is, first of all, it comes back to the culture of collaboration, which started in 20th century. And the culture of collaboration in some contexts is lower compared to some other contexts. It is one reason. The second reason is a personal reason. We have ego boundary.
Exactly.
All right. This ego boundary in some cultural settings has not been broken into pieces. At the same time, it should be respected, held in high esteem. It should be also broken into needed pieces in order to cooperate with our colleagues and observe the teachers' classes. Also, there is another viewpoint in this connection. If we consider our identity formation in connection with macro society, in teaching profession, I guess it can be a factor broadening our horizon of the reality.
I see your point. I see your point. How can we move our colleagues towards this better culture of collaboration?
So we should,
damaging
I
their
guess it is, you are moving to psychological aspects. I guess number one, we should have mutual respect. Number two, we should have mutual understanding. Number three, we should invite our colleagues to observe our classes. Whenever they observe our classes, we should invite them to tell us our mistakes. And we should understand the fact that we are human. According to Maslow's pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need self-esteem. We need to be respected. We need to respect others. Others need to be respected. When there is mutual respect, if we respect ourselves, and if we understand that human being is prone to mistake, to respect, prone to mistake and needs respect, in that case, we will open the gates to inviting our colleagues. So there are some other, again, I am sorry to mention this point, but I have to answer your question more comprehensively.
Yes.
We need to consider the self-confidence of our colleagues. We should try not to break their self-confidence, not to break their self-esteem. If we will realize that there are three aspects for whole realm of education: affective domain, cognitive domain, and behavioral domain. If these three domains are well connected to each other, in that case, we can, if again we practice more, we can move along this line. Again, as I mentioned, finally, I come back to the culture of collaboration.
Thank you very much for your input.
Collegial professionalism. Thank you for the nice question. Any questions? I don't have your voice. Am I clear? Any question?
Teacher,
What?
me as your student, what kind of certificate I need to teach? I need to get to teach. I want to be a English teacher.
All right. So as far as I know, you are 12, 13 years old, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So from my point of view, before you start teaching, you should arrive at general English competence. You should be a proficient English speaker. Then you need one of the certificates. Then if your age lets, you can, after 18, you can arrive at teacher training courses, teacher education courses, and then if you would like to study English at university, is quite a different story. If you would like not to study English at university, just you would like to study another course, but next to that, study English language, teaching English language. So in that case, it is possible for you to move along the line of CPD, which I mentioned today. Thank you for your nice question.
Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. Further questions?
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Of course, but please ask me the easy questions, not tough questions.
Okay. As we have talked, and there were so many frameworks and models, regarding the teacher education and what is going on in the future and past and present. Uh, is there still room for uh, maybe creating some
It's not
frame?
clear. Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay, I say that. Is
Hello.
there still room for creating more frameworks of teacher education, whether pre-service or in-service?
Sorry, could you please clarify the point? What do you mean by this question? Could you please clarify it? I didn't get the point.
I mean, just imagine that, for example, in Iran, we try to create a
I'm sorry,
general.
there is disconnection. Sorry. There is disconnection. There is disconnection. There is disconnection. That's okay, yeah. You start, yeah. That's okay, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
Yeah, I said that, you know, there were so many frameworks and so many models regarding teacher education, whether it is in service or pre-service. Okay.
Okay.
So is there still room for creating and developing further frameworks, for example, in Iran, that covers more, we could say, micro features?
Of course, yeah. In Iran, as I mentioned in English as lingua franca, we can move based on our own needs in Iran, right? We can move based on local needs of the learners. There are a lot of frameworks and models for teacher training. So training model, deficit model, cascading model, and a competence-based model, standards-based model, action research-based model, various models, but based on the needs of every context, based on the needs of every, let's say, situation, we can prepare, develop some frameworks. The frameworks that today I presented you, these frameworks are not generalizable to other contexts. If one framework answers in one context, maybe it doesn't answer in another context. Of course, this is not to deny the significance of global theories and global models. Global theories, global frameworks can give us some guideline. For example, you can have a look at this framework, two frameworks that today I introduced you, and you can create your own framework within whatever I have included there, based on your own experience, research findings, the needs of the learners. I mean, teacher candidates, learner teachers.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Just one point I'd like to ask, if one model, for example, is more suitable in Canada, that model, nobody can claim that can be suitable in another country. Maybe yes, maybe not. Because of that, the pedagogy of particularity in teacher education comes to view. Because of that, Coleman says that all pedagogy is local rather than global. Global pedagogy just reinforces theory and practice and broadens our horizons of the reality of practice and teaching in pedagogical contexts.
Thank you. I really appreciate your answer.
Thank you for your nice question. I enjoyed it. Further questions? Harzad has asked me a question if I am not, Harzad, you have any question?
Sir, actually, that's not a question. That was
That's
a
okay.
plea for mentioning my design course as well. You know, I have used your mentioned principles in one teacher education course,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be the fruit of my educational endeavor for
Thank
the
you.
last
Great,
15
great.
years as a PhD candidate.
Thank you very much. You are a reflective practitioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions?
I have one more question, if you don't
Of
mind.
course.
How can you emphasize on the importance of personal development and that the fact that it is more important to work on your CPD rather than taking certificates?
Personal development, okay. So we have professional development and we have professional learning. Your question is in relation to two concepts, professional development concept and professional learning concept. In professional development, we are following formal courses, but in professional development, in professional development, we are following formal courses, but in professional learning, we learn on our own. We are following continuous professional learning, but it is a valued activity. What it needs to be included in within the framework of academic context. If you what? Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So you need to frame your personal learning within professional development.
I see.
So because you are doing self-study, you need to make it more academic. In order for you to make it more academic, you need to join community of practices. You need to cooperate with English teachers. You need to exchange your ideas with those who are more experienced. You need to take local or global teacher training courses. And you need to just be socially and dialogically mediated in order to achieve your final aim of following CPD.
I see. Thanks for the input.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I also meant how can anyone present the importance of continuous professional learning, as you put it, for everyone else, so they can also see the difference between the importance of this and also having a certificate for whatever you focused on.
How can one present, you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean how? Could you please clarify your point?
Yeah, sure. My questions are mostly regarded to my own classes, which I'm working with other teachers, helping them with the professional development. And more often than not,
you are a teacher educator, or you are a teacher?
Yes, I work with teachers for now. I work with teachers,
you are okay. You are running teacher training courses,
yes,
teacher education courses. That's okay, great.
Yes,
and okay, so
I didn't clear this because my question is more regarding to how to properly acknowledge such points, so my colleagues can also understand that certificates are a big part of our development, definitely, and they're all standardized courses that we definitely need to make.
One of the key aspects of these certificates is one of them is improving the quality of our teaching. In your quality of teaching, they will see. Number two, your status and your standing. when you are following, you yourself obtain these certificates, and they see your connection with CPD, continuous professional development, and they see that, okay, you are more proficient and successful at continuing your practice to theory, your pre-service to in-service, and as an educator, you also consider teacher education as a lifelong activity. You also consider reflective practice as a lifelong activities. They will automatically be motivated, and they will be inspired to join you and follow it.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Further questions? Further questions?